Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics at Fisher Farms in the Kingdom of Callaway. We're talking ag policy with the guys that know what they're talking about. The president of rural Missouri, the president of Missouri Farm Bureau, Garrett Hawkins, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Senator Caleb Rowden, Boone County, thank you for joining us.
You bet.
Bradley Schad, first time on the show, Missouri Corn Growers. Thank you for the hospitality.
Thank you.
Jay and Kim are members of your association, right?
They are. They're past president, great board members of the past, and great to be out here on their farm. It's a beautiful place, Fisher Farm Pumpkin Patch and Corn Maze. They got many acres out here to enjoy with your family. So,
Garrett, I mean, when this started off, it looked like a tall order, but what a win for rural Missouri.
You know, Governor Parsons' mold was a big one.
Yeah.
It was a bold move to veto the ag omnibus bill and essentially hit the reset button to give agriculture the full 6 years that was needed for these important ag and rural tax incentives. And certainly, you know, as I think through the history and successes in working with ag organizations, this is one that everyone was hitched to the wagon and worked extremely hard leading up to and through special session, you know, between Senator Rowden, Senator Schatz. You look on the House side, Brad Pollitt, Dean Plocker, obviously Jason Bean on the Senate side. We can give praises all around, but truly, you know, I'm really proud of the work that the ag groups did in working with the Parson administration and everyone pulling together during special session to get what agriculture has needed. We've talked about this for a long time, and I can tell you within Farm Bureau, I am thrilled to be able to clear the deck and start looking forward to other issues.
I mean, it looked like this is one of the times where every ag group was together. And boy, you needed to be, because you had a tall order.
we did have a tall order. There was a lot going on, a lot of things that needed to get accomplished. Between the anhydrous ammonia, you had the ethanol and biodiesel tax incentives, and on top of it, the MASBA that has shown that all of agriculture has benefited from, whether it be the meat industry, the ethanol industry. It built the ethanol industry. The MASBA tax credits did, and it's shown return on investment. You know, 3 to 1 return on investment is on average is what the MASBA tax credits has brought back to the state.
So, Senator, when the governor first taught this, mentioned he might go down this sort of a special session, he had 2 years in the pocket. I kind of felt like you left session with some knuckles on those 2 years you brought out.
Yeah.
It's one thing for the governor to go all in with a big, bold move, but it kind of got left to you to bring home. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we got it done. You know, I sat across from Garrett and his team at the end of session, but before session last year, and just apologized. You know, and I basically said, look, we failed your industry, and we knew going into this year we had to get it done. Obviously, the details of what was going to get done and how it was going to get done were TBD. But to get it done the way we did, and yes, you know, the governor took an interesting route to get us there, but here we are. You know, these guys are happy, which means I'm happy.
I tell you, when he first thought he might veto that bill, I was like, oh, he won't do it. The old sheriff did it and threw it down, but it came out. Were you surprised the fight was as hard as it was to bring that through?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be tough. The two issues, obviously the tax side has its own set of issues and problems and barriers and you know, characters.
When you have the biggest tax cut in state history, you had to feel like that came out well too.
It came out, both things came out exactly like they needed to, and you know, for us to do it, frankly, the reason why it took as long as it did is because it took us a minute to get everybody there. You know, in the fall, everybody's campaigning and everything else. So, yeah, it's a great win for Missouri on a whole host of fronts. So
tell me, you got a farm like the Fishers or any farm around the state. What does a MASBA tax credit do, and why is 6 years so much better than 2?
Well, it takes a while. It's typically groups of farmers that get together that help build industry, like it did with the ethanol industry, that look for opportunities to help benefit their farm that brings additional dollars back to the farm. We've done that with the ethanol and biodiesel industry. It also provides opportunities to find new markets that are out there and build a business plan. It makes sure that it is feasible before you go forward. And so MASBA has been a great program for Missouri agriculture as well as Missouri consumers, because it gives them an opportunity to see agriculture like this farm here. And so brings them out there and shows all the great benefits of what Missouri agriculture is bringing back to the state.
Garrett, we've talked about this 20 times on the show, but break it down. I was told 2 years didn't really work that well. 6 years is what you need. Mm-hmm. I saw the other Eco-Devo programs for the urban parts of the state seem to get 6, 10 years. Squaring it up, but what is this program better at 6 years?
Well, You got to have opportunity to plan, right?
Yep.
And that's why 6 years is so important. You know, if you think about a 2-year time period, by the time you're up and running and have everything in place, you've already got a program that's potentially sunsetted and your window is closed in terms of your business opportunities. So you got to have at least 6 years. We should be treated like every other business sector in the state. And the governor was right. I mean, agriculture is a major driver of our economy. Why should we be treated any differently? So let's make sure, if we're going to have these programs, make sure that they're actually usable. Give us the 6 years. It only makes sense. And Bradley, I appreciate you bring up the feasibility studies. You look at some of the businesses that have come online here. It's all been because of MASBDA seed money. A person being able to take an idea, actually put numbers to the paper, run the numbers, then go to the lender and say, look, this is a viable business option in the state. You look at a pecan business in Northwest Missouri that's going gangbusters as a result of a MASBDA feasibility study, meat processors in Western Missouri that now are tapping into the Kansas City market. So it's not just tax credit. Sometimes it's that seed money to get an idea off the ground and make sure it's going to work. And Missouri benefits as a whole from that.
Senator, this just seems like the kind of things Missouri sometimes misses out on. They're just common sense things, make the state better.
Yeah.
You know, if the government can do good, if it can build a road, it should build a road, right? If it build a school, or if it could help its biggest industry, maybe it ought to, right?
Yeah, and we don't do any of those big things particularly well. Usually, this is my biggest gripe about state government is because of term limits, right? We're here
Yep.
for a very finite amount of time. Most people don't get the blessing that I've had to serve in both chambers and get more than 8 years. 8 seems to be the cap for a lot of people. And so everybody thinks in 2-year cycles. They don't think about 6 years down the road. They don't think about 10 years down the road. And it is the fundamental flaw in how we do what we do. And so you either have to have a bunch of people who have no political ambition at all to say, I care more about the future of the state than I do me getting to my next position, or you're going to have some of these problems from time to time. So,
And you only have so many Ron Riches in the world, right?
yeah, that's right.
And there's plain fact. All right, tell me about, Garrett, now that this issue's finally settled, hopefully settled for a while, and it won't be controversial, do it again, what's next for ag?
Well, you know, I think we need to continue to work on infrastructure. As we think about Missouri being at the cross section of the country and infrastructure being one of our advantages, we need to continue to work on rural roads. We appreciate the governor and the General Assembly putting more money into rural roads, but I got to tell you, some of my folks aren't happy when you see more chip and seal, more patch. I'm getting the question, is this really what we're getting with our enhanced investment? So questions there. On the broadband side, we are so excited to see where the grants end up this fall, but you better believe we're going to be asking questions on the accountability side, because we've seen for too many times federal dollars come to the state, providers block everybody out, and 3 years down the road we still haven't seen any progress. So we'll be working with Office of Broadband to push on
Are you
accountability.
going to be able to find some help on, 'cause, you know, in North Missouri, you can bury those lines pretty cheap. You get down in places like even little St. Clair County, southern end, you get some hills that are made out of rock.
Yep.
Is there going to be an answer on these pole attachment issues? I mean, because that, I think in southern Missouri, well, southwest Missouri for sure, is going to be the tell the tale.
I mean, that's going to be an ongoing conversation, Scott, I think, as we're in session.
What's next?
You know, I think there's a lot of opportunities. Like he said, infrastructure is key, being able to get our product to market. I think there's some opportunities some other states have put in for younger growers that we may look at and see. We're going through the process right now with our board to see what our top priority will be next year. There's always something that comes up that we don't see, and so we're going through that process. A lot of our focus is going to be on a lot of federal issues, the Next Generation Fuels Act, the Farm Bill's coming up, and so we're really going to be focused a lot on the federal issues.
So were you surprised that a state that's supermajority of Republicans and the supermajority of the supermajority is folks from rural Missouri seemed awfully hard, especially in the House, to pass an ag bill?
Yeah, and you know, huge shout out to Speaker-elect, soon-to-be Speaker Clocker. I mean, I wasn't watching while all of that went down, but I'm getting text messages of, you know, saying, hey, they're having to do some House business, right? You know, which I was a part of a few times with John Deal and others, but yeah, you know, it's an odd deal. I mean, I think the thing that I've always been frustrated about as it relates to people's view of they hear credit or incentive and it automatically get closed down. They're not willing to put in the work to put those things in context. Not every credit's good. Not every incentive works. Not everything that is designed to do the thing that it does actually does that thing. But we know that in this case, it absolutely does. And so, you know, my I'm glad that they were able to get it done. I'm hopeful that those guys and gals that have that view of incentives generally can just be more thoughtful and put those things in context. Vote no when it doesn't make sense. Vote yes when it does, and care way less about some organization grading you than what the impact is.
That used to be a House thing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
senators have started to care.
Most of those organizations hate me at this point, you know. Or well,
you've done a good job.
Yeah, so it means I wear that as a badge of honor.
So tell me this: I went to the press conference in the special session, and I've seen something that I think even I've kind of adopted at times, that the Senate's not got a lot done. And I heard your answer to that. When you listed off a laundry list, I think that may be messy, but that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, you listed off a very long list of things that the Senate has gotten done in the last few years.
Oh man, the accomplishments in the last couple of years, even we knew these. The first 2 years of my leadership stint, there was still a lot of backlog from the previous years. So we had a good couple of years there. These last 2 years, you're right, were really, really hard. But the things that we were able to get accomplished, I'm incredibly proud of. And this being this and the tax cut, that happened in weird ways and took some work to get there. But those are the two of the chief accomplishments I'll take with me when I leave.
I mean, if you look at each wing of the party, if you're pro-life, if you care about gun rights, if you're pro-law enforcement, or if you care about tax policy, you've really had pretty significant piece of legislation passed that you can be on board with and be proud of.
That's right. And we I think we've got to be careful not to. We've done all this stuff, and Missouri's a conservative state. We're read just about everywhere. We have to continue to focus on the things that matter most to people. Sometimes my party, the other party, they can make up boogeymen to try and kind of freak people out and start to govern by fear. Let's not do that. Let's take a look at everyday Missourians. They're struggling with inflation, all these other things. Let's do things that benefit those folks and care way less about our political futures.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you talking about not just the accomplishments, but what's going forward, and congratulations. Big win. We'll be right back. We're going to have Jack Cardetti and Scott Dieckhaus talk Amendment 3, but first, go to showmissouri.com. District Missouri, one county at a time. You can read all about the Kingdom of Callaway. Callaway County, we had everybody up at Westminster, including future Senator Travis Fitzwater, talking about the county declared itself a kingdom for a little while. Show Missouri. We'll be right back after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
My grandfather served in World War II and was a butcher. My dad worked the midnight shift at Anheuser-Busch. I'm Eric Schmidt, and these men taught me about hard work. In college, I gave tours and took out the trash at the estate Trudy Bush Valentine grew up on. As Attorney General, I've taken violent felons off the streets. As your senator, I'll fight for the forgotten men and women Joe Biden's left behind. I approve this message because it's time to take our country back.
All rise for Judge Mike Carter, Sundays on ABC 30, host of the Cowboy and Judge Show. Tune in for community advocate Judge Mike Carter and his celebrity guests as they discuss today's hot topics and big issues here at home in Missouri. Hear about the power of good from community leaders, business owners, students, charities, and tons of familiar faces. Court is in session with Judge Mike Carter on the Cowboy and Judge Show. Available at MikeCarter.com or Sundays on ABC 30.
The Cowboy Judge Show. Giddy up. Giddy up.
The best conversations happen at the kitchen table, so I'm bringing the table to you. I'm Ann Wagner. Public servants need to listen to you, not the liberal mob. People care about kitchen table issues, like the skyrocketing prices of groceries and gas. And now Biden has you paying for someone else's college loans. Let's stop their madness. I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message to give you a seat at the table.
Common sense conservative, Ann Wagner for Congress.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics from Fisher Farms in the Kingdom of Callaway. We're going to talk a little Amendment 3 right now with Scott Dieckhaus. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, it's good to be here.
And Jack Cardetti. Jack, you're working for the Support Amendment 3 thing. What is in Amendment 3?
Yeah, so this year there were more than 90 initiative petitions and referendums filed with Secretary of State. Amendment 3 was the only one that had enough grassroots support to actually make the ballot this year. There's only one initiative on the ballot. What Amendment 3 does is pretty straightforward. It would allow Missouri to become the 20th state to legalize cannabis, while at the same time clearing past criminal records for people that had nonviolent crimes. So we would be, legalizing marijuana at the same time. And there's a lot of reasons there's so much support across Missouri for this.
But that's what it does. It basically just comes out, legalizes marijuana for 21 and older, right?
Yep, 21 and older. We would be the 20th state to do it. It's going to allow law enforcement, to focus on serious and violent crime, because a big part of their job right now is taken up on these petty marijuana offenses. So I think that's one of the reasons you see so much support for it.
Mr. Franklin County, you're on the other side of this.
I am.
I saw you pick this up. Why did you decide to join the campaign to oppose Amendment 3?
Because it's bad. It's bad policy. I was shocked to see that it was 39 pages, 50,000 words that we're putting into the state constitution, and there's so much more to it than just legalizing marijuana and expunging records. And I think that people in Missouri are starting to see that. You've got all these organizations coming out against and very few coming out in favor. I know that the pro-Amendment 3 folks are touting that this is going to help law enforcement do their job. We've got support from law enforcement groups that are opposing Amendment 3. I haven't seen any law enforcement groups come out in favor of. I did see that the state troopers kind of chastised the folks with Amendment 3 for including them in an ad, and I've been told they issued a cease and desist from that ad proceeding. But anytime you've got the state Republican Party, the state Democrat Party, and the state Libertarian Party all in agreement that something's bad, and they refuse to endorse it, that's saying something.
Jack, tell me if you're a regular Missourian, you're watching this on YouTube while you're eating some chicken in Tipton, Missouri. Why would you support this?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a reason politicians aren't for this, right? Politicians are good at doing nothing. In fact, and if we left it up to politicians to legalize cannabis, it would be another decade before they do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to become the 20th state. We know that tens of thousands of Missourians go across the line over to Illinois every month, and they purchase marijuana over there. That brings Illinois tax revenue, and it brings them a real boost to the economy. There's no reason we shouldn't do that homegrown right here in the state of Missouri, and that's absolutely what Amendment 3 does. It keeps those dollars in our own communities. Right now, there are more than 200 dispensaries in the state of Missouri that are serving more than 200,000 medical marijuana patients. It's literally one of the most popular programs in the entire state.
So because I see the "Don't Tread on Me" flags, I see the Republican parties to get the government out of your life, but I find sometimes they want to get the government in the parts of your life they want to get it into. I personally am German. My elbow bends probably too well to partake in the marijuana business, but I feel like that if you're for small government, you should want the government out of whether you should smoke pot or not. How do you, if this isn't the answer, how do you get there?
So I do think that we need to revisit this. I think we need to have a serious conversation. I think we need to include more people in the conversation than just the marijuana industry. So you're right. Politicians maybe aren't the answer. Maybe that's not the way that we get this done. Maybe we do have to do it via the ballot. I don't know that doing it in the Constitution is the right way to do it. We put something in the Constitution. If we screw it up, I don't think the marijuana industry is going to show back up and say, you know what, we've got to fix this. And nobody else is going to show up and say, we've got to fix this. But common sense Missourians, folks like Missouri Farm Bureau, folks like the National Narcotics Officers, folks like the Missouri Hospital Association, the State Medical Association, they oppose this. Those are common sense Missourians that see the real effects and impact that this would have. And not all of them think that marijuana is necessarily bad.
Because they don't want any more pot on the street?
No. We've got, our coalition is diverse, and it is a wide range. Some people are opposed to marijuana. That's true. Some people are in favor of legalizing marijuana, and they're in favor of the expungement. But they don't believe this is the way to do it. There are a lot of pieces in Amendment 3 that are poorly written, and they will be poorly executed. So I think we need to have a serious conversation, include other parties in addition to the marijuana industry, and get this done right the first time.
I think that's a little ironic, though. I mean, Scott's organization They filed with the Missouri Ethics Commission this week, and they showed exactly 0 supporters. They didn't have a single supporter on their campaign finance.
Monetary.
And I think that speaks volume. The organizations he's talking about, they all oppose medical marijuana as well. It got 66% on the ballot. That's why this is a common sense Missouri proposal. One of the critiques, actually, of Amendment 3 is that it doesn't allow for the public use. You can't walk down the sidewalk and smoke a joint under Amendment 3. And that actually is one of the biggest criticisms of it. I think that shows a little bit how there's a disconnect between common sense Missourians and the opponents of Amendment 3.
Take my mom in West Butler County.
Yep.
She didn't vote for the first pot thing. I wouldn't vote for this one. Why is this the best way? If she comes to the realization this is going to happen,
yep.
The existing system is essentially you're expanding that. Why is that the best thing for her?
Well, yeah, because there's safeguards around it. You can't. There's no public use of marijuana. You cannot drive under the influence of marijuana if this passes. Those are common sense proposals that mean a lot. While at the same time, once we pass Amendment 3, we know that there's going to be tens of millions of dollars of revenue that come in here. We know law enforcement doesn't have to deal with this issue anymore. They can actually focus on serious and violent crime, and Missouri would become the 20th state to do this. So,
can you define under the influence of marijuana when we're talking about driving under the influence? Because that's not defined in the amendment. I think it's probably intentionally vague, and law enforcement is saying they don't know that they can enforce this the way that it's written.
Right now, you can smoke pot with you get a medical card.
Sure.
Tell me this. It seems like there's some folks that are against this because they came up short in getting a license. How much farther out than it is folks that may just feel like, well, they don't like the existing system.
Sure.
What system do they want?
That has been the smallest segment of the group that I'm working with. I've had a few folks reach out to me and say that they had problems with the medical system, but that has been probably the smallest segment.
What do they want? What kind of system would they like to see medical marijuana legalized under?
I think a lot of folks are okay legalizing. What they don't want to see is they don't want to see language strictly written by the marijuana industry. They don't want to see language that is specifically going to enrich only those folks that have medical marijuana licenses. They're the only ones that are really guaranteed to get a comprehensive license under this amendment. They want to see the expungement piece done fairly. The way that it's done in Amendment 3 is that those folks who've already kind of served their time, paid their penalty or whatever, and are out in society, they would have their records expunged essentially for free with tax money generated through Amendment 3.
Always thought he was one of the more intellectual Republicans.
Those folks who are in prison still, who are still serving time, they would actually have to pay, petition, have an attorney, file. Those are the folks that don't have access to
income. Should you be in jail right now for smoking pot?
I don't think so.
And that's exactly why Amendment 3 is going to pass. It's very common sense, right? It's the expungement piece is pretty straightforward, right? If we're going to legalize marijuana here and you have that on your record, something that's now going to be legal, then we ought to automatically take that off your record. And that's exactly what Amendment 3 does.
But we're not doing that for the folks that are in prison.
Well, sure, you have to put something in front of the judge so that he allows somebody
so the people who don't have access to income, they don't have a job, they're supposed to pay an attorney.
I never thought Scott Dieckhaus would be a liberal in this argument.
If you're going to do it right.
So, we would actually be the first state in the entire country that would automatically expunge past criminal records through the vote of the people. I think that's one of the reasons that this has brought so many people together. It is true criminal justice reform. That's why we have so many organizations that back this, because it's an issue of fairness. If we're going to legalize something, let's also automatically expunge those records, and let's have the small tax on marijuana actually go to pay for that. I think that's another thing that's important. We've seen too many states put too high of taxes when they legalize marijuana, and all that does is keep people using the illicit market. Here, with the 6% tax, you're going to generate millions and millions of dollars while also making sure that it's accessible for everyone.
Right. Folks call you the Prince of St. James for a reason. I've always felt, I get around the state as much as anybody. It seems to me like regular folks are like, well, if you want to smoke pot, fine. But they kind of don't want it in their face. They don't want it everywhere. They don't want to look like Denver, right? They want St. James to look like St. James. And if you want to smoke your pot, live and let live.
Yeah, and
do that.
I mean, and that's part of the opposition here is you have some marijuana lobbyists that their job is to go to the Capitol every year, propose a marijuana bill, and fail so they get paid to do it again the next year. Some of them want a dispensary on every single street corner. That's not going to happen. That's not the Missouri way.
I don't think that's where Missourians are. Like, I don't think folks want to go through New Haven and see a whole bunch of folks smoking pot. No. I think they're generally live and let live folks, but they don't want to see that in their face, right?
And I think a lot of Missourians, too, they see what's happened in states like California and Colorado, where they've got significant increases in car accidents and fatalities on the road. They see the dangers. if we're just talking about, hey, if you're going to sit at home on a Thursday night and smoke out on your front porch, I think people can deal with that.
Yeah.
But we're putting it in people's hands all times of the day and night, on the roads, at their workplaces. That's not how Missourians want to do this.
All right, Jack, wrap it up. This election's been a little odd. It's not as exciting as I might have thought it was going to be. This may be the most interesting thing on the ballot. When folks walk in, they're standing in line waiting to vote. What should they think about Amendment 3?
Yeah, I mean, Amendment 3 is a straightforward, common sense Missouri approach to legalizing marijuana, become the 20th state. It's going to get us tens of millions of dollars in revenue. It's going to allow those 21 and older to safely access this. You know, if you go into a store, you purchase cannabis, it's going to be lab tested, it's going to be safe, unlike a lot of the stuff that we're seeing out on the street. Now, Scott, I appreciate the fact that he says we ought to legalize marijuana. He acknowledges the legislature's not going to do that. He acknowledges this is the way that it's going to happen. And that's why I think you see so much support, not just here in Missouri, but across the country. I mean, there's states like Montana, South Dakota, that are legalizing marijuana because it just makes sense.
I think most folks are like live and let live. But I agree, the legislature's not going to do this, right? I mean, practically, it's unlikely.
No, I don't see the legislature doing it, but I do think
give me
that
the case for why folks should vote against this
absolutely
proposal.
the wrong way to do it. It's poorly drafted. It's written just to enrich the folks who are already in the industry. Medical marijuana passed in Missouri because everybody knew somebody who maybe could have benefited, or they put themselves in a situation and said, okay, if my aunt were sick, I would want her to have access to certain medicines. I think the difference here is that one, Amendment 3 is actually undoing a lot of the safety measures that were put in place 3.5 years ago when we put medical marijuana in place, removing a lot of the local control, removing a lot of the safety provisions, moving a lot of the financial reporting requirements. A lot of those things are actually undone here in Amendment 3.
You made the case why it's bad. Now give me the case for somebody who won the week.
Who won the week, and this is kind of breaking news. St. Louis City Mayor Tashara Jones, who is going to be issuing a statement against Amendment 3. So some breaking news.
Many weeks she ain't been winning lately. Who won the week?
Well, actually the city of Columbia, I think, won the week. They have a brand new airport terminal up there or whatever. They've badly needed it forever. It is really, when you talk about mid-Missouri, people coming to Columbia, coming to Jeff City here, it really is the doorstep of mid-Missouri. And that airport has not functioned well for a long time. Former Mayor Brian Treese and others helped
Brian Treese ever get the credit
done.
he deserves for the job he did in Columbia?
Well, look, I'm glad he's a MoDOT director now because we're going to see better roads in Missouri. Everything that he touches really goes well, and I think that new airport's going to be a huge economic driver for our region.
I'm going to say Melissa Randall, the Missouri School Board Association, they become the Cardinals. All they do is win in October. Beat back some government overreach. I mean, licked them. Oh, boy. The other thing, Chuck didn't get paid by the hour. About 5 minutes in court. School Board Association, big winners. Thank you to the Fishers for letting us be at Fisher Farm in the Kingdom of Callaway. And we'll see you next week on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and Sterling Bank.